And what we're going to talk about today is how kindness is a seminal Christian principle. But we're going to put two words together throughout the entire morning, and we're going to put together the words kindness and justice. Because where you find kindness by itself, it can be a kind of hallmark platitude. And where you find justice just by itself, it can become a kind of strong, muscular, but no heart dynamic. We're going to put those two words together, and what we're going to see is that when you find kindness and justice together, there you find one of the most powerful tools in the entire universe for creating change. Now, where you find kindness and justice, you also find the history of Christianity. Here's an example from the book of Timothy. It says, give proper recognition to those widows who are really in need. And even in our modern world, where you find health and power and strength, you find those two words employed. Let me just give you a couple of examples. Parenting. All parents need to incorporate kindness and justice. Another example, those of you who are managers, and most of us are managing something, good management is about empathetic connection. Marriage is about thoughtfulness, it's about touch, it's about kindness, and it's about honesty and honest conversations in communications. What is communication? Well, to pick up Jared's wonderful formulation, communication is first beginning to try to understand somebody else. That takes a lot of listening. That takes a lot of hard listening. It takes a lot of empathy. It takes kindness. And yet, at a certain point, and we saw this employed beautifully, by the way, by Jared last week, there needs to be truth offered, sometimes tough truth. There's no conversation with just listening. There has to be both kindness and justice. And you will find embodied in this text these two seminal hallmark words, kindness and justice. Let's listen to our text. You can find it on the screen in front of you, or you can pick up a Bible like the one I have beside me. Listen for God's word, Micah 6:8. It begins this way. God has shown you, O mortal. The Hebrew for mortal here is actually Adam, which, as you know, means man, can mean all people, but it means human. God has shown you, O human, what is good. Now, from this first line, you can see the establishment by Micah of a proper boundary. God is God, and you are not God. Got that clear? Says Micah to the Israelites. God is God, you are not God. So Micah then asks, what does then God require of you, since you are not God? What is God making us do? This is a law, by the way. And early rabbis would show that this text is a 3-line Cliff's Notes of the entire Torah, or the entire Old Testament. Here are the 2 lines. First, act justly. Notice Micah doesn't say think justly, ponder justly, pontificate justly, wonder justly. No, act justly. It's an action. And how do we act justly? We act like God, who we are not. Do what God would do. Reach out to those in need. Reach out to the widows. Reach out to the orphans. Reach out to the marginalized. Act justly. And here's our main word for the morning. And love kindness. Depending on your translation, there are many different translations of the word kindness from whichever one you are used to. Some know the word mercy, loving mercy from the English Bible, embracing faithful love from the Common Man's Bible, loving grace from the Jewish Bible, loving faithfulness from the Holman's Bible, showing constant love from the Good News translation, being compassionate and loyal in your love. But there you have it, the encapsulation of the entire Old Testament in one text. But what I want to spend the rest of our time with today is, how do we do this? How do we act justly and love kindness? I believe that justice is something we get as Americans. Maybe we get it too well. It's kindness that I think we need to be persuaded is equally as strong. And so this is my one and only point for the morning. Kindness is a strength. Kindness is a strength. A book that I love to read to my kids every night when we go to bed, but a book that I cannot commend to you more is this book by Charlie Maxey, who happens to be one of my favorite preachers. And the book is entitled The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. This is really, though, a book about kindness. But here's my favorite page I want to close with, and I want to just lead up to it this way. This is what Micah was talking about when he talked about kindness and justice. This is what Timothy was talking about when he was saying we should reach out to widows. This is what James was talking about when he said we should take care of orphans. This is what John Lewis asked us when he asked, what is a country if it doesn't take kindness and justice seriously? This is what Martin Luther King was talking about when he stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. This is what Jared Wilkins was talking about when he demonstrated kindness. And yes, this is what Dan Meyer demonstrated when he has stayed in touch with me these many years, even for a job I didn't get. And here's the page. "Nothing beats kindness," said the horse. "It sits quietly beyond all things." Nothing beats kindness. It sits quietly beyond all things. And sitting there with kindness is the kindest person who has ever lived, Jesus, who went to the cross for you and I and calls us to sit quietly with Jesus beyond all things.